Today, hundreds of America's top military officials gathered for an unprecedented meeting with President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Now, the president, in his remarks, swayed political at times as he criticized President Biden and said the U.S. was under an invasion from within.
It was really extraordinary for him to do that. And Hegseth, for his part, taking through the changes that he wants made to the military, including ending diversity efforts and bringing in new standards, new gender standards.
I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is.
We're joined now by the CEO of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, Major Kyle Hunter. Kyle is a Marine Corps combat veteran with several deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan as an attack pilot. Thank you so much for being with us. You're really a great person to talk to us about what we heard today, especially considering we heard so much about women as well in combat roles from the Pentagon chief. What just generally was your reaction to what you heard today?
So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me today. I think broadly, particularly these comments about women show a unfortunate focus on a culture war when we should be focused on military readiness. What we do know, what the evidence shows, what history bears out, is that for occupational standards, women are and have been held to the exact same physical occupational standards as men. Whether it was in combat aviation, when I came in, I had to adhere to the exact same standards as my male counterparts. I had to do the same swim in the same amount of time. I had to fly the same aircraft. And when ground combat was open to women, it was made very, very clear that there is one gender-neutral occupational physical standard that anyone going into these roles has to hold. And it has been that way since these roles have been open to women. So it is this unfortunate seeming to rehash of a culture war that is frankly distracting from real military readiness that we should be focused on.
Hegseth's comments come about a week after he shut down this decades-old advisory group that offered recommendations on how to support women serving in the military. I wonder what you think the practical implications of this is in conjunction with his comments and what it will do to military readiness.
Yeah, so I mean, I have deep concerns about the shutting down of the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services, or DACOITS. I had the honor of serving on DACOITS twice, and what I can say is that the recommendations that we made for women in the services benefited everyone and increased military readiness, increased lethality, and increased unit cohesion, whether it was on ensuring there was properly fitting gear and equipment for everyone who goes downrange into harm's way, or ensuring that there is adequate familial support so people retain and stay in the military. These are actions that impact everyone. And I think with the loss of the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services, and with these statements that show that women may not be adhering to the same standards, which is just blatantly not true, there's real concerns about recruiting. These big recruiting boons that we've seen are largely driven by women joining the military, but there's also a lot of concerns about retention. Are people going to stay in if that's what's going to happen? But also what it does to our veteran population. We are hearing from veterans, men and women alike, that remarks like this have a real impact on veteran mental health and how they feel about their own services, their own service, and were they actually worthy to be in the service. And so, while there's a focus on the active duty right now, we absolutely need to be focused on that aspect. We also need to be looking at what are the ripple effects of this rhetoric do to the mental health of our veteran population as well.
And Hegseth also said this. Let's listen.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris.
There's a lot there to unpack, but I just wonder what your reaction is.
So I think it's unfortunate when statements like this get made because it leads to division. You know, if we go back to the military being a true meritocracy, it should be. And I will say from my time in the military, I had the opportunity that I was judged objectively against my peers, and where I succeeded on my merits, and where I fell short of my own shortcomings. The offices that he's talking about, and I would go back to particularly the work of a committee like Dakowitz, made the military more merit-based. Work that Dakowitz did things like removing pronouns from fitness reports or officer qualification records so that individuals, when they were being promoted, were being judged on their skills, their achievements, and merit, not a implicit or explicit bias that somebody might hold. And so the very claims that they're wanting, right, if they want a better meritocracy system, they are dismantling the offices and the programs that made it a meritocracy to begin with, which is a little counterintuitive in my mind.
Major Kyle Ann Hunter, we appreciate you sharing your perspective. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.